Welcome back to the final part of TAEKOOK fanfiction story, When He Fell for the Soccer Player. Are you ready? Let's begin. The new season opened under a sky full of floodlights. Every camera in the stadium pointed at the same player, Jungkook. He'd been with Vanguard FC for only a few weeks, yet already his name filled headlines and stadium chants. Every goal he scored felt like a spark in Taeyoung's chest. But fame has a way of creating shadows. Among those shadows stood Chad Min, the team's longtime captain. For years, Chad had been the face of Vanguard. The interviews, the endorsements, the leadership posters on every wall. Now, every mention of the team started with someone else's name. Jungkook's. At practice, the difference was obvious. "Nice shot, Jungkook," Taeyoung called from the sideline, clapping. His voice carried easily across the field. Jungkook turned, grinning, flushed from the run. "Thanks, boss." Chad's jaw tightened. The ball he just passed rolled out of bounds. The assistant coach tried to cover the awkward silence by blowing the whistle. "All right, again. Positions." For the rest of the scrimmage, Chad's passes toward Jungkook came a little too hard. A little too far off. No one dared say anything. But everyone saw. Later that week came the big match, Vanguard FC versus Seoul Royals. Cameras, sponsors, and packed stands. Taeyoung sat in the VIP box. Fingers pressed against the glass as he watched Jungkook step onto the pitch. The young forward radiated focus. Under the floodlights, his tattoos glinted like small streaks of fire. From the first whistle it was electric. Jungkook weaved through defenders. Fast as lightning, fearless. The crowd's roars grew louder with every touch of the ball. Taeyoung couldn't help the smile stretching across his face. Wide, proud, completely transparent. Chad saw it too. When Jungkook scored his second goal, a perfect volley that bent cleanly into the net, Taeyoung stood, applauding like a fan. Cameras caught the moment, social media exploded. The owner's favorite, the headlines would soon read. By the end of the match, Vanguard won 3-1. Jungkook had scored twice. Chad hadn't scored at all. The locker room buzzed afterward. Players cheered, music blared, towels flew. Only one corner stayed quiet, Chad's. He watched Jungkook surrounded by teammates, Taeyoung waiting outside to congratulate him. The pride on the owner's face burned worse than defeat. "Good game, Captain," Jungkook said, walking past, still polite. "Sure," Chad replied flatly. "Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts." Jungkook paused, surprised, but didn't answer. He just gave a small smile and left. Outside the tunnel, Taeyoung was waiting, dressed in a simple black coat. "You were incredible," he said as soon as Jungkook approached. His tone wasn't the clipped professionalism of an owner, it was soft, glowing with emotion. "You carried the match." Jungkook laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. "You make it sound like I did it alone." "You kind of did." Their eyes met. The world quieted. The sound of fans faded into a hum behind them. Taeyoung took a step closer. "Let's celebrate properly." "My place." "Dinner." Jungkook hesitated, half teasing. "Dinner or dinner?" Taeyoung smirked. "You'll find out." Later that night, in Taeyoung's apartment overlooking the Han River, the city lights painted everything gold. Dinner plates sat forgotten on the table. They had talked for hours, about the match, about pressure, about how strange it felt for success to come so suddenly. Jungkook leaned back on the couch, still glowing from the game. You know, I used to dream about this kind of night. Winning, someone waiting for me proud. Taeyoung's expression softened. You earned it, every bit of it. Jungkook turned toward him. I couldn't have done it without you believing in me. The space between them shrank. Jungkook's hand brushed Taeyoung's wrist. Neither pulled away. Taeyoung's breath caught. The tension that had followed them for weeks finally found its voice. You look at me like that again, Taeyoung murmured, and I might forget I'm your boss. Then forget, Jungkook whispered. The kiss that followed wasn't rushed. It carried the same rhythm as their connection, built slowly, filled with meaning. Jungkook's hand found the back of Taeyoung's neck, pulling him closer, deepening the moment. Taeyoung melted into it, fingers tracing Jungkook's jaw. They pulled apart only when air became necessary, foreheads resting together, breaths mixing. Taeyoung smiled faintly. You know, if anyone finds out, we're doomed. Jungkook grinned. Then let's not let them find out. They stayed close. Quiet laughter, soft touches, the city lights reflecting in their eyes. It wasn't just attraction anymore. It was something deeper, fragile but real. Across town, the locker room was dark except for one flickering light. Chad sat on the bench, still in his uniform, scrolling through social media. Photo after photo showed Taeyoung's proud smile, Jungkook's victorious grin, headlines calling Jungkook the soul of Vanguard FC. His fingers tightened around his phone. So that's how it is, he muttered. Golden boy. He looked toward the whiteboard where team strategy hung and began erasing lines with the heel of his hand. Let's see how perfect he is when the field turns against him. As the last light flickered out, Chad's reflection stared back from the glass door, calm, calculating, ready to play a different kind of game. The morning light broke through Taeyoung's apartment, soft and gold, spilling across the tangled sheets and half-finished coffee cups on the nightstand. The city outside was already awake, traffic humming, birds scattering between rooftops, but inside time felt paused. Jungkook stirred first, his hair tousled, eyes still hazy from sleep. He turned to find Taeyoung sitting by the window, wrapped in a robe, sipping coffee while the skyline glowed behind him. You're up early, Jungkook murmured, voice rough and warm. Taeyoung smiled without turning. Couldn't sleep much. Too many thoughts. Good ones, I hope? Jungkook rose, pulling the sheet loosely around his waist and joining him by the window. Taeyoung gave a small, almost shy nod. Mostly about you. Jungkook laughed quietly. Then I'll take that as a win. He leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to Taeyoung's temple. The kind of kiss that didn't demand anything, just lingered. Taeyoung closed his eyes for a moment, leaning into it. It wasn't just attraction anymore. It was belonging, the fragile kind that people spend lifetimes searching for. But outside that glass window, reality was already rearranging itself. By noon, the team group chat was full of clips from the match, memes and highlight reels, all of Jungkook. John Jungkook, the new face of Vanguard FC, one sports headline read. Captain Chad Min's reign might be over. Every notification that lit up Chad's phone felt like a jab. He watched interviews replay in silence. Jungkook smiling humbly. Taeyoung standing beside him, glowing with pride. The kind of closeness that wasn't supposed to exist between player and owner. At training, Chad's voice was sharper than usual. Stay tighter on defense. Move the ball faster. No showboating. Jungkook nodded, obeying, though he could feel the tension like static in the air. After practice, Jungkook found Taeyoung waiting outside again, dressed casually but still radiating quiet sophistication. Chad's gaze flicked toward them from across the field, sharp, unreadable. Good session? Taeyoung asked. Yeah, Jungkook said, forcing a smile. Captain seems a little on edge lately. Taeyoung's brows furrowed slightly. He'll get over it. Winning fixes everything. But Taeyoung's calm didn't erase the unease in Jungkook's chest. He'd worked too hard to build this. His place on the team, his bond with Taeyoung, and something told him both were starting to tremble beneath unseen weight. That evening, Taeyoung invited him to the club's private balcony to celebrate another sponsorship deal. City lights shimmered over the river, glasses clinked, laughter floated through the night air. But behind every congratulatory smile, Jungkook felt eyes, measuring him, whispering. Taeyoung noticed too. Ignore them, he murmured. They're just jealous. Jungkook smirked softly. Then I guess I'm in good company. They stood close enough for the soft brush of Taeyoung's hand to meet his. A moment later, fingers intertwined beneath the table, hidden, reckless, perfect. When the night ended, Taeyoung drove him home himself. The drive was quiet, streetlights washing over their faces in flashes of amber and white. At a red light, Jungkook finally spoke, voice low. You know, every time I see you in the stands, it's like the noise fades. The crowd, the pressure, everything. It's just you. Taeyoung's grip tightened on the wheel. And you make me feel like I still believe in something real. That's dangerous. Then maybe we stop pretending it's not real, Jungkook whispered. The light turned green, but Taeyoung didn't move. His pulse thudded in his throat. Slowly he turned toward Jungkook, eyes searching, uncertain, yet already surrendering. And Jungkook leaned across the console, closing the distance between them. The kiss was softer than the one before, slower, but it carried everything they'd been holding back. The risk, the need, the inevitability of it all. When they finally broke apart, Taeyoung's voice trembled. If this ever comes out, it could destroy us both. Jungkook brushed his thumb against Taeyoung's cheek. Then let's make it worth the risk. Back at the training center the next morning, Chad's plan quietly began to move. That night, Jungkook stood on Taeyoung's balcony again, the wind teasing his hair, the city below unaware of the storm brewing. Taeyoung joined him, wrapping his arms loosely around his waist from behind. Big match coming up, Taeyoung whispered. You'll be brilliant again. Jungkook turned in his arms, resting a hand on his cheek. Not without you believing in me. Their lips met again, slow, searching, filled with the kind of tenderness that felt like defiance. The world was falling away beneath them, but for now they let themselves fall into each other instead. Back in the club. Captain Chad had been silent for days. He trained hard, smiled when he needed to, but inside resentment boiled like acid. Jungkook had stolen everything. The praise, the fans, even the owner's attention that used to be his. So he decided that if he couldn't outshine Jungkook on the field, he would destroy him off it. 2 nights before the big match, Chad caught Jungkook alone after training. He clapped him on the shoulder, voice unusually friendly. "Hey golden boy," Chad said. "You've been killing it lately. I was thinking, maybe we should celebrate before the final. Just the two of us. Clear our heads." Jungkook blinked in surprise. He'd never heard Chad sound so genuine. Really? You want to go out together?" "Sure. You deserve a break. Come on, one drink won't hurt." Jungkook hesitated for only a second. Chad was the captain after all. Maybe he was finally warming up to him. Maybe this was his chance to fix whatever tension had been lingering. "All right," Jungkook said with a grin. "One drink." The nightclub was loud and glittering, lights flashing against glass and chrome. The bass thrummed through the floor and laughter mingled with the rhythm of the music. Chad guided Jungkook to a private booth near the back, waving at the bartender like an old friend. "To the game," Chad toasted. Jungkook raised his glass. "To the team." He took a sip. The drink was smooth, strong, maybe a little too strong. But Jungkook was too caught up in the moment to notice. Chad kept the conversation light, complimenting him, joking about interviews, even teasing him about Taeyoung's constant attention. Jungkook blushed and laughed it off. Half an hour later, his head felt heavy. The world had begun to blur around the edges. He didn't see Chad signal to someone across the room. A woman appeared, glamorous, confident, smiling too sweetly. She slid beside Jungkook, fingers grazing his arm as if they'd known each other forever. "Hey superstar," she whispered. "You look like you could use some fun." Jungkook blinked, confused. I think you've got the wrong." But before he could finish, she leaned in, wrapping her arms around his neck. He froze, startled, trying to pull away, but his body felt heavy, his limbs slow. The music pounded, people cheered, and somewhere a camera flash went off. At that same moment, Taeyoung's phone buzzed in his hand. It was late. He'd been reviewing the final sponsorship documents when an unknown number appeared on the screen. "Mr. Kim," a voice said, low and slightly distorted, "you might want to come to the Blue Note Club. There's something you should see about your golden boy." The line went dead before Taeyoung could respond. His chest tightened. He didn't know why, but a deep unease crept through him. He grabbed his coat and keys, his mind racing the whole drive there. The club was crowded when he arrived. But it took only seconds for his eyes to find the scene. The private booth, the flashing cameras, the woman draped over Jungkook. Her lips near his neck. And Jungkook, smiling hazily, dazed, unaware that the person he loved was standing at the entrance, watching his world collapse. Taeyoung's heart clenched. He didn't stay. He turned and left before Jungkook even saw him. The next morning, Jungkook woke up in his apartment, head pounding. His phone was exploding with messages, photos, tags, gossip posts. Star striker John Jungkook caught partying 2 nights before the final. Vanguard's golden boy with mystery woman. His blood ran cold. What the hell? And then he saw it, Taeyoung's name on the missed calls list. He didn't hesitate. He ran to the office. Taeyoung was waiting. The air inside his office felt colder than the marble floors beneath their feet. His suit was immaculate, but his eyes were distant, sharp with something that looked too much like disappointment. "Sir, Taeyoung, please, it's not what it looked like," Jungkook started, voice trembling. "I didn't even, someone spiked my drink, I swear." Taeyoung raised a hand, silencing him. "Enough." Jungkook froze. Taeyoung stood, every word coming out slow, controlled, but shaking at the edges. "I gave you a chance when no one else did, Jungkook. I believed in you when the world forgot your name. And this is how you repay that trust." Jungkook's voice cracked. "Please. I would never." "You would never?" Taeyoung snapped, his composure fracturing. "You were poor, desperate, begging for help to pay your mom's surgery?" Jungkook's eyes filled. "Don't say that. You know me better than that." "I thought I did." Taeyoung turned away, his jaw clenched. "I was a fool." Silence fell, thick and unbearable. Jungkook took a small step forward, his voice breaking. "Please don't push me away over a lie. You mean more to me than you know." But Taeyoung's eyes glistened with something cold and final. "Then you should have thought about that before you threw it all away." He walked past Jungkook, placing a folded envelope on the desk. The termination notice. "Your contract ends today. You'll get your settlement. After that, we're done." Jungkook's breath hitched. "You can't mean that." "I do," Taeyoung said softly, not turning back. "I don't have room in my life for another heartbreak." Jungkook's knees almost gave out as he whispered, "You were never my heartbreak, Tae. You were my reason." But Taeyoung didn't answer. The door closed, and the sound echoed like the final whistle of a dying dream. That night, Jungkook sat alone by his mother's hospital room, eyes swollen, replaying every word Taeyoung had said. He didn't know that across the city, Chad was celebrating quietly, a small smile on his lips, a victory toast raised in the shadows. And somewhere inside Taeyoung's chest, the echo of Jungkook's voice still lingered, haunting, fragile, impossible to forget. The training grounds of Vanguard FC were unusually tense. The sun beat down on the polished field, but there was no energy, no laughter. The team moved through drills mechanically, their movements sharp but lifeless, as if the very air around them carried a weight they couldn't shake. At the center of it all was Kim Taeyoung, the usually radiant, magnetic owner, but today he was a storm contained in a tailored suit. His eyes, normally full of warmth and teasing charm, were hard, cold, and unforgiving. Every whistle, every correction, every instruction carried an edge that made the players flinch. Jungkook wasn't there. Terminated. His locker remained untouched. The space where he had laughed, cursed, and celebrated goals was empty. A void that Taeyoung refused to acknowledge openly, though inside, his chest twisted every time he caught a glimpse of the empty field. The team noticed. The air was different. The warmth, the humor. The spark that used to exist between the players and their owner had turned icy. Whispers spread among them, anxiety clawing at the edges of every drill. Even the assistant coaches shared worried glances. No one had ever seen Taeyoung like this, so cold, so distant, so wounded. And in the shadows of the locker room, one player couldn't bear it any longer. Taemin, a midfielder who had reluctantly helped Chad scheme, now felt his conscience gnawing at him like fire. He had seen Jungkook, heartbroken, alone, isolated. And every time Taeyoung snapped at the team, the guilt cut deeper. Finally, during a break, Taemin approached the office. His hands shook slightly as he knocked on the glass door. "Sir, can I speak with you?" he asked, voice hesitant. Taeyoung didn't look up. "Make it quick. We have work to do." Taemin swallowed. "It's about Jungkook. What happened at the nightclub, it wasn't his fault. Chad, he planned everything. The drink, the woman, the whole setup. Jungkook didn't, he couldn't have done anything." The words barely left his mouth before Taeyoung's jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed, a storm brewing behind them. "You expect me to believe this now? After everything?" "I know it's late," Taemin said, voice shaking. I can show you the security footage from the nightclub. You can see what really happened. Jungkook, he was set up." Taeyoung's knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of the desk. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. His mind raced. The disbelief, the anger, the shame twisting inside him like a blade. "Show me," he finally said, his voice low, brittle. Meanwhile, miles away, Jungkook sat alone in his apartment. His world shrunk to the dim glow of the city lights. He had replayed the nightclub in his mind 1,000 times. The woman leaning close, the drink he hadn't realized was spiked, his body too weak to resist. He hadn't even wanted her there, hadn't even moved toward her. And yet Taeyoung had seen only the moment, the misinterpreted scene. His chest tightened. He pressed his hand to his face, tears sliding down silently. I would never. Tae. His voice was barely a whisper, lost in the darkness. You have to believe me. He curled into himself, knees drawn up, feeling smaller than ever. His pride, his dreams, the bond he had with Taeyoung, all had been shattered in one night, one misunderstanding. His eyes were red, swollen, and dry from endless crying. The sparkle that once made him shine on the field was gone. Back at Vanguard FC, Taemin handed Taeyoung a tablet. It's all there. You'll see he couldn't. Chad did this. Taeyoung stared at the screen. The nightclub footage played in slow, excruciating clarity. Jungkook, dazed and unsteady. The woman leaning toward him, Chad lurking in the background, smirking as the scene unfolded. Taeyoung's heart twisted painfully. Every harsh word, every cold dismissal he had given Jungkook, now felt like a stone tied to his chest. His mind reeled. He had judged the man he loved without the truth. The next morning, Taeyoung drove in silence, the streets a blur around him. He didn't call Jungkook, not yet. He didn't want to rush the fragile reunion, but every heartbeat screamed guilt, every passing streetlight felt like a reminder of the time lost. When he arrived at Jungkook's apartment, he found the door slightly ajar. Inside, the faint smell of cold coffee lingered, and the soft glow of the city illuminated a small, lonely figure curled on the couch. Jungkook lifted his head, red-rimmed eyes meeting Taeyoung's. Tae. His voice was hoarse, broken. Please, let me explain. Taeyoung froze. The sight of him, fragile and defeated, tore at something inside. His pride and anger battled the surge of relief and guilt. I saw the footage, Taeyoung said, voice low, heavy. I was wrong. Completely wrong. Jungkook blinked, hope and disbelief mixing in his gaze. You You saw it? Taeyoung took a tentative step forward. I should have listened. I should have known you wouldn't. You wouldn't betray me. It was Chad. Jungkook's chest heaved, tears spilling freely now. I tried, I wanted you to believe me. Taeyoung closed the gap, gently holding his face. I know now. I let my anger and pride blind me. I hurt you. And I am so sorry. For the first time in days, Jungkook allowed himself to lean into the warmth, letting Taeyoung's hands anchor him. Inside the apartment, Taeyoung whispered almost inaudibly, I won't let anyone hurt you again. Not Chad. Not anyone. You're mine and I'll protect you. Jungkook, Taeyoung whispered, pulling him to his chest. Can you please forgive me? I said lots of hurtful things to you about your mother. Jungkook cut him off. I forgive you. I know you were angry. Taeyoung hugged him tighter. I am sorry, baby. The day of the championship arrived. The stadium roared with energy, banners waving, fans screaming. The opposing team was formidable, but Jungkook led his team with courage, confidence. And then in the final minutes, with the score tied, Jungkook intercepted a crucial pass. He ran, heart pounding, eyes fixed on the goal. The stadium held its breath. With a deft kick, precise and powerful, he scored the winning goal. The crowd erupted in ecstasy. Fans chanted his name, and in the center of it all, Taeyoung's chest swelled with pride. His golden boy had returned, stronger and more radiant than ever. As the celebration continued, the press swarmed, lights flashing. Today, Taeyoung began, voice carrying over the crowd, we celebrate not just a victory on the field, but the strength, courage, and heart of one person who has proven himself in every way imaginable. He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the stadium before settling on Jungkook. And this is more than a celebration of football. This is a celebration of love. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Fans exchanged shocked looks, cameras flashing wildly. Taeyoung took Jungkook's hand, lifting it to his lips. Jungkook, will you marry me? Jungkook's eyes widened, tears streaming freely now. The stadium seemed to disappear around them. The roar of the crowd faded into the background as his heart raced. Yes, Jungkook whispered, voice trembling with joy. Yes, I will. Taeyoung pulled him close, forehead resting against Jungkook's. I've never been more proud of you, he murmured. Jungkook smiled through his tears. And I've never loved anyone more than I love you. The stadium lights hummed, a distant memory against the velvet press of Taeyoung's office. Rain lashed the panoramic window, blurring the city into a watercolor smear. Jungkook stood, the lingering adrenaline from the match still thrumming beneath his skin, a wild current. Another win, Taeyoung's voice, a low rumble, filled the quiet. He didn't turn. Jungkook moved closer, the scent of rain and expensive cologne filling his senses. You always knew I could do it. His fingers brushed the silk of Taeyoung's shirt. A feather-light contact that sent a jolt through both of them. Taeyoung finally turned, his eyes, dark as the storm outside, meeting Jungkook's. A slow smile, private and knowing, curved his lips. I did. And you always deliver. His gaze dropped to Jungkook's mouth, lingered. Tonight's delivery feels different, Jungkook murmured, his voice a little rough. He reached out, his palm warm against Taeyoung's jaw. The stubble there. Taeyoung's breath hitched. He leaned into the touch, his own hand rising, not to push away but to cup Jungkook's wrist. Different how? The question barely a whisper. Hungrier. Jungkook's thumb stroked Taeyoung's cheekbone. More desperate. A low chuckle escaped Taeyoung, a sound laced with something dangerously close to surrender. Desperate for what exactly? He stepped closer, their bodies almost touching, the air between them charged electric. With a mischievous glint in his eyes, Jungkook leaned close, whispering against Taeyoung's ear, "Tonight? I'm in charge." Taeyoung froze, surprised, his usual composure cracking as Jungkook's warmth pressed against him. What followed was tender and intimate. They explored each other's boundaries, laughed softly, whispered words only meant for them, and discovered that love could be equal, playful, and passionate all at once. Taeyoung, usually the strong and commanding one, melted under Jungkook's gentle yet assertive care, discovering a new depth of trust and intimacy. The night ended with them wrapped in each other's arms, hearts racing, feeling more connected than ever, not just lovers but partners in every sense. Years passed and life unfolded beautifully. The golden glow of their love continued to shine, now shared with two adopted children, twins named Era and Han. The John Kim household was always warm, bustling with laughter, the occasional squabble. Every weekend, Taeyoung would bring the twins to Jungkook's matches. The stadium roared with excitement as fans watched the Golden Star dominate the field. But the most important cheers weren't from the crowd. They came from the small voices in the stands. "Go Appa! Go Appa!" Era's pigtails bobbed as she waved a handmade banner. Han jumped up and down, face flushed with excitement. Jungkook's eyes scanned the stands, and when he saw the twins cheering wildly, his heart swelled. He scored another goal, and the roar of the crowd was nothing compared to the joy reflected in the eyes of his family. After the match, Taeyoung and Jungkook would walk hand in hand, twins clinging to each of them. The photographers tried to capture the golden star. But the world couldn't take its eyes off the family united in love, the strength, the joy, the warmth of the John Kim clan. Even in interviews, when fans asked about Jungkook's secret motivation on the field, he would glance toward the stands, smile warmly at Taeyoung and the twins and say, "This is why I play. For them. For us."